Welcome to Jason's Thoughts, episode 85. Woo! Who do I got with me? The man, the myth, the legend, Hassan. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Everyone's like, "Oh, this guy again?" Oh
Hell no.
man.
I keep on getting, when is the next vlog with you and Hassan? And I keep saying, like, gotta stop calling this Jason's Thoughts. I think we'll have to have a tag team name at some point eventually here. So no, I can't even say welcome back or happy to have you back. I'm just happy that we're having this conversation again. It's been a little while.
For sure. And guys, I had the pleasure of meeting Jason in person. Yes, the rumors are true. He is equally as handsome in person as he is on camera. So it definitely did not disappoint. No,
Uh,
honestly, Jason, it was such a pleasure to see you a
you
few weeks
too.
back, man. And I know we're gonna get into our topic today, but
Yeah.
like, and especially the conversation around hard times and things like that. But one of the biggest beauties of landing where I did was it gave me the privilege of coming to meet you, man. So
Oh yeah.
if I had to
Yeah.
go through it again to come see Jason Lambrick, like 100%, like a
uh,
10 out of 10, I would do it again. So all in all, it was a blessing to see you.
Yeah, you too. I mean, for the viewers, driving 3 hours to get to see me and then back, like, way out of the way. Like, I don't care what you say. It's way out of the way, and I appreciated it. And it was cool. It was just, I mean, we formed our friendship online, virtually, through work, and to see each other face to face. It was like I've only known Hassan in this little TV box, and so, and then to hey, here we are, not looking at TV screens and still talking. It was phenomenal. So really, really enjoyed our time together.
Absolutely, and I don't want to go on a tangent too much, but I did want to make one note. It's
Mm,
the beauty of fostering meaningful relationships through remote work. You know,
hmm
um, I know that is a topic that it's in the professional world where you've got like big tycoons like Amazon saying, "Hey, come back to work 5 days a week," and other people are in these hybrid models. And the biggest argument people are making is, are we fostering real relationships virtually or in person? And the reality is there's a paradigm in which both exist, but
Yep.
if you're fully remote and you have genuine admiration, love, and empathy for the people you work with, connections can be fostered. And like this is just living
Yep.
proof, man. I met you 2 years ago, and then to meet
Yeah.
you in person, and it didn't feel odd or awkward. It just felt like, hey, come
Yeah.
on in, let's chat. It felt very natural. So just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that point was conveyed that there's beauty in the world when you meet new people, and especially exceptional people like Jason. So just wanted
And
to make sure that was
likewise.
addressed before we dive in.
The feeling is very mutual, but I agree. I think a lot of people need to learn how to foster those relationships virtually. I think there should be training on it because I think you and I had like for like connection desires and went out of our way to connect just as humans, and lo and behold. So I agree, but I think it is something doesn't always come naturally for some, but could be trained as well, and I
For
love
sure.
it. So appreciate our friendship. So, we have both been through some less than ideal times this year, going through a lot of transition, both of us in a lot of different ways. And so today's topic, I kind of want to talk about, uh, some of the life lessons and learning moments through those tough times. Because, for me, I think when you're cruising and life's good, it's just like, you might be gaining some small tidbits of um, experience, and but generally things are pretty good. I find that some of the biggest learnings are when you're down and out, when you're stressed, when you're in a bad spot, when you lose your job, financial stress. And so, I know you've gone through some transition in work. I've gone through some transition in work, personal as well. And so that's where I thought maybe we could share today a little bit of our biggest learnings through this past year, and maybe someone gets something out of it.
For sure, 100%. And I think, you know what, guys, this was an entirely Jason prompted idea, and it's worth mentioning because of how topical it is right now, right? When you look at the end of the year, like the bruising and scars of what you look back on, it's a lot to take in from January till what, October now, 2 months, and 2 months is 2025. And when
Yeah.
those reflectionary moments do come, it's a moment to reflect and say, hey, we endured, but a lot of things did come about. And I love the point you made where when things are good, what lessons are we really learning other than, hey, life is great? And I guess lessons can be learned of just, hey, smile when you need to, cry when you need to. But I think the what's the old saying? Metal is shined when heated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I think we definitely got thrown into the lava a few times this year. So if we're not shining by now, I don't know if we are going to.
Yeah, I agree fully. I absolutely agree.
I wanted to give a quote from famous poet. I think he'll go down in the history of time as like one of the all time greats, rivaling up with Shakespeare, Rumi, all those other greats. I think his name's Marshall, or known also known as Eminem.
Yeah. I
um,
wonder where you're going with that one.
to
Love it.
quote, "Not afraid." It's
Nice.
yeah. It's been a ride. I guess I had to go to that place to get to this one. Now, some of you might still be in that place, and if you're trying to get out, just know you're not alone. Just follow me, I'll get you there, right? And I think
Ooh.
that line is very topical, especially where, I think you and I are both human beings, and if you know, what obviously once you shared the hard times you've been through and lessons you learned, and likewise on my end, I think there's some hope that hopefully somebody can take something away and realize
Yeah.
there is another side. It will pass, and there is something you will gain post that side as well. There's another quote I have, but I'll share that for my share. But I'll kind of kick it off to you, Jason.
Yeah.
On hard times, on a high level, how would you describe what your hard times were, the circumstances around it, and what was hard for you specifically? Right? Like there's an
Hmm.
overall sense of like sympathy somebody could have. Oh, like I guess I can get there, but what was hard for you specifically? Because I think you and I talked about at some point, people respond to difficulties different ways,
Yeah.
and especially when it comes to grief, some people take an element of it. So I would love to know, number one, what were the hard times you endured? What was hard specifically for you, and what were the lessons you learned from them?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. So I'll be transparent this year. I got some and unsettling news and unexpected news at my job, like a lot of people in the job that we work for or the company we work for. And I found myself staring down the barrel of the end of my career within the organization, which had, been over 20 years already. But it wasn't like an instant thing where it was like, okay, here you go, bye. And there was kind of like a finish line, right? And so, initial shocks are like, whoa, okay, all right, okay, I'm still alive, I'm still breathing, I'm still okay. But because there was kind of like this finish line that was months and months away, um, what I kind of started enduring was piled up stress. Like, okay, the shock was there, potentially lose my job. Okay, I'm going to be a little stressed, okay? But then kind of the ticking and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and going through some tough times and saying goodbye to some great people along the way. I started uh, building up additional stress, fears of the what if, because there's one thing to be said about kind of getting cut off right at the beginning or laid off right at the beginning. It's like, boom, okay, shock, awe, move on, right? And so my learning was kind of like, okay, like every day I'm down, I'm feeling miserable, I'm struggling to get up in the morning, and um, I couldn't figure it out because here I'm a guy that I do these vlogs and I talk about all this stuff and positivity and optimism and these things. Um, I didn't I'm horrible at stress. I'm horrible at dealing with stress, is what I figured out. And so much so that I actually impacted my own personal health through my heart. My heart kind of blew up on me one night at 11 o'clock. And that was the ticker. That was like the, wow, okay, I just did not realize that I was taking the stress on into my body and not dealing with it in a functional way. And my body just said, "No, you're done." Luckily, I wasn't done, but it was really, really tough. So for me, it was over the time lapse that it built up. So, I wouldn't say it snuck up on me because it was just there every single day, but it was really kind of softer undertone until I snapped. And so, in reflection, I went, wow, like I I take my stress and I push it down in my body. And I was doing that so much day over day over day over day over day that my body reacted and rejected the stress because it just couldn't handle it anymore. So in reflection, I'm good now. But when I look back and everything I say, everything I do, encouraging others, I went, wow, I actually need to listen to myself and figure out myself and look within and how I'd handle stress better moving forward so I don't kill myself. Because it's a real thing, and I think a lot of people deal with that. And so that was a little bit of my year. Tip of the iceberg, of course.
For sure, man. And listen, number one, thank you for your vulnerability to share it, man. I think like these are definitely personal things so that like you these this information is an ode to anybody and the fact that you shared it, thank you. And also for the lessons that you kind of acquired through. I did have a follow-up question that I was hoping you could
Yep,
elaborate on. So you're
yep,
going through this phase where it's like there's a finish line. You're literally watching people in front of your eyes be laid off piece by piece. So there's a
yep.
grief and you're seeing their grief as well.
Yes,
You're dealing with your stress of wrapping up and also dealing with like, hey, I'm gonna be laid off at this date. But
yep.
when do I look for a new job? Do I wait? Do I start
Right.
now? Do I look later?
Yeah.
And then your heart situation comes in.
Yep.
Sure, that was a wake up call, and the overall learning was, hey, don't build in stress. How did, from the timeline of your heart situation happening, did you take measures to take it easier on yourself? Like, what was the actual methods that you did for yourself?
Well, I call it my mortal moment because literally I thought it was like I didn't know it was gonna. I felt like I was gonna die at the moment. Um, but if it was my moment, nothing mattered. Like not having a job. If you're dead, you're dead. You don't worry about your bills. You don't worry about your job. You don't worry about is the lawn mowed. Any of that stuff goes out. So as much as I would not wish it upon anybody to go through what I went through, it instantly snapped me back up, saying like none of this matters. Like I'm stressing over a job. There's plenty of jobs out there. If I don't have a job, I still have my family, I still have my life, I still have my health. And so I think, again, as much as it was scary, I think it was a blessing because it gave me that realization. Because after that, I was just like, I care about what I do. I got to wrap things up still, but I'm not going to stress over it because it doesn't matter. It's just not worth. It's not worth my health.
You know what I find beautiful about that, Jason, is that like when people have mortal moments, they have one of two ways of taking the nothing matters. They can either become nihilistic and say nothing at all matters, right?
I was
Or
close.
or or you can kind of do what you did where you kind of realize, okay, what truly matters is this. So
Yeah.
I'm happy you didn't go the other way, and this wouldn't have been like you dyed your hair, you have bangs, and it's okay. This is Jason's thoughts, you know. What is life,
Uh,
man?
yeah, yeah. Start smoking joints and just oh, hypotheticals and angels and everything else. Who knows, right? Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Now, so that's me. I would love to get your thoughts on it as well, and what you've gone through.
Sure. And I'll kind of kick this off with a quote from
Hmm.
Master Frodo Baggins. This is after Frodo's, gone on his journey, went to Mount Doom and comes back, and
Yeah.
it's this somber moment. He says, "Where how do you pick up threads of an old life? How do you go on when in your heart you begin to understand there is no going back?" Um, and that's sort of what these hard times are, right? It's like, sure, you may endure it and you may have had some great moments. Like for a context, for those of you who don't know, I was laid off in January. Um, and I'll kind of go a little bit before that. So the year before was a very trying year. Um, Going
Yeah.
from departments to departments, there was some uncertainty about my job. I'd been laid off 3 times up until that point, January being number 4.
Yeah.
And when I joined the company that Jason and I were at, I finally found my footing in my dream career. Like really, the
Yeah.
source kicked off my career, man. And I loved the work I did, but it was an uphill battle because I started from net new. The
Yeah.
team had been restructured as well, and it was like I'd endured so much by the time December came around, I was like, I'm done. I'm burnt out. And January was this weird time for me because I was like, man, how do I do a post mortem on the previous year and look forward to the year? And I'll credit my former manager Rachel Hunter for this. She sat me down and was like, "Hey, Son, like, what do you want this year to look like? What do you want to achieve?" And I'm like, "I don't know, everything I did last year but better." That was my exact response. I was like, "What the hell do you mean? What are my goals?"
Yeah.
She's like, "No, like, give me something specific. What do you want to see happen?"
Yeah.
And I finally was able to get over 2023, and I was like, you know what, 2024, I'm gonna hit these 3 things, and when I do it, I'm gonna rock it. And a week later, we're laid off. So it's like you went down, you finally get up, and then you're slapped down again, and like, oh, what was it all for? Good news was I didn't have to do my postmortem document for the previous year. I detest those, so thank you, Best Buy. But after that, you're laid off for the 4th time. It's January. Suicide Prevention Month and Awareness Month is for that time for a reason. It's the darkest time of year. There's
Darkest.
nothing festive going on right now. So I was dealing with seasonal grief. I don't want to use the word
Mm.
depression because I haven't been diagnosed with it, but like I'll say seasonal grief.
Okay.
Then you look at the self purpose of, man, I just finally landed my career. I had so many plans to do great things. That's gone. So I faced the dread of self purpose. I'm a father and a husband, and I take those titles very seriously within myself. And part of that is to just be the best version of myself, give my daughter everything I can. I don't want to have to go to a grocery store and not give her what she wants and kind of look at things. Like I look at my wife, and we didn't have date nights for a while, or whatever the date nights were. Was like buying
Yeah.
Swedish berries and watching like a movie,
Hmm.
sharing Netflix passwords with my siblings. These are all things that kind of add in this level of shame and embarrassment, and that was another thing. And then job searching was a full time job where it'd be like 2 a.m. I'm up, LinkedIn post just went live 3 hours ago, 100 applicants already. It's like if you're not ahead, you're behind. Like doing that consistently, and blessings to God, I landed a role in April, but even in April, I felt I had a Frodo moment where it's like, you made it through, but man, like, it took me a week or so to kind of shed what had kind of come through.
Yeah.
Um, there was one night that was exceptionally challenging for me where I had interviewed at this company so when I joined the Source, there was another company that rivaled with me.
Yeah.
And an offer, and I remember I had to pick between a sales role, which I'd been doing for years, or
Hmm.
take a pay cut and go towards digital marketing. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is a time to take that opportunity cost. Now, fast forward 2 years later, I went back to that company with the offer letter and I emailed the recruiter saying, "Hey, you're hiring for the exact same position. I'll take it at this scale." And we did 5 interviews in 5 days. And my final interview, I met a guy who had nothing to do with my department. He was just a senior, and he just did not like what I had to say. And I was rejected within 2 hours of that interview. And that was my lowest of the low. I just got in my car and I drove, and I just didn't know where I was going, what I was doing, and this ultimate grief was just upon me. And I'm like, what do I do, man? It's at that point it'd been 300 applications, no one's biting, and that was my grief. Um,
Yeah.
a thing that really saved me was a perspective I gained from a marital counselor actually. It's not that I attended it. It was actually something I kind of saw on YouTube, going
Yeah.
through. And me and my wife were just having arguments, but like it was essentially over nothing. It was like she was dealing with the grief of me losing my role and seeing her husband going through something. I'm trying to
Yeah.
navigate my grief and not put it upon anyone else, and it led to unnecessary arguments. And
Yeah.
it was like have perspective on your spouse and find three things. What are three things you appreciate about your wife? And then
Mm.
when I started doing that, it put me in perspective. Okay, like it's not my it like this my wife isn't the problem here. The problem is all these extenuating circumstances around us. And then I took that wisdom and I said, okay, what if I put that in my life right now with what are three things I'm grateful for today? And
Love
some
it.
days it was hard and some days it was easy. Some days it was like, okay, I woke up, closing my back and the heater's working. Like it could be anything. Or
Yeah.
other days there's more grandeur of like, oh, like, I'm grateful for like the earth and the trees. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, the influence of some things will kind of help you have various perspectives. But ultimately, it was the gratitude piece what got me
Mm.
through the darkest moments where it's like, hey, I don't have a job right now, but my toddler isn't in the ER right now with tubes up her nose. I may not have a job right now, but my family's with me, my friends are with me, I may not have a job right now, but and that
Yeah.
was the ultimate ingredient what got me through it. It truly was hand to heart, guys, just that one thing. I wish it
Wow.
was a combination of things. It was just that because that put in perspective of, hey, you know what, you got friends who care, and everything else kind of went into focus when I was grief stricken. It was very much easy to I kind of did what you did, man. I just bottled everything.
Mm-hmm.
I got into the space of what ifs. Like
Yeah.
gratitude puts things in perspective, in present perspective. All
Yeah.
my fears and bottled up was what happened before and what might happen later. And it when you add that onto yourself, like luckily, Jason has a massive
Yeah.
heart. That's why his heart went. For me, I have a massive head, so it headaches, right? Like so. That was my physical
There it
ailment.
is. Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately that was just the lessons of just always be grateful, and you'll realize it isn't. You have two hands, you have 2 feet, you have a heart, two eyes, and a brain. You can make something happen, and that's sort of my take on that.
Man, again, vulnerability. Appreciate you. Going through that too, and through those times. I think those are the times where we have to look out for each other. I know you message me a lot of times, and I message you a lot of times. Even though we're on different sides of the spectrum, I'm still employed and you're hunting, and you still came to me with like, hope you're doing okay. And it's like, whoa, yeah, I'm okay. I hope you're doing okay too. But I really like that, taking something that you found that was, about your, through things you appreciate about your wife, but actually implementing that into your life with gratitude to, just pick yourself up day after day. That's quite something so simple, potentially, but often we don't do it enough, right? We look
Sure.
at the things that are bogging us down, the things that are negative, looking in the future, which can cause anxiety or stress. And sometimes you just got to ground your feet, just step up and down and just feel your feet touch the floor and be grateful that you're even breathing today, because like not everybody wakes up either, right? So there's one on the list that you can
Mhm.
check off. Easy to find two others, so I'm happy that helped you through those tough times, because some people don't find that light or that spark, right?
For sure. And listen, and I genuinely appreciate all the love and support you gave as well. And to anybody else who's watching here, you guys all know who you are. And the beauty of the gratitude piece was it forced me to take a look at that as well, right? It's like, hey,
Hmm.
you feel alone, but you're not alone. You got people in my immediate circle, and I got somebody 1,000 kilometers away out west, like giving a crap, right? So,
Yeah.
I will say on the gratitude piece, on the challenge of it, it's just got to be consistent for it to take effect. It's not like you're going to do
Mm.
it once and then you're
Yeah.
set. It is like a day in, day out. And like I alluded to, some days it's hard. It's like, how can there be three things? Like the world is this. Like
Yeah.
when you're unemployed, man, like you're watching things, and then you're like, oh, the economy, global warming, and then oh, like
Yeah.
this war and this, and like it's very easy to get a nihilistic view on it as well, where hey, nothing
It's
matters.
true. It's
Um,
true.
but to force yourself out of that scenario, and what really drove in this gratitude piece was Agnes Roeder,
Yeah.
incredible leader. She shared something on LinkedIn as well on the gratitude piece, and when I
Yeah.
saw that it was this affirmative thought of okay, this really is something to kind of guide and hone us in. So yeah, like that was essentially my biggest. Know, with Thanksgiving that just happened, everybody had some variation of how they celebrated. But what a great reminder before the holidays, before it does get dark and cold, that hey, there will be three things to be grateful for sure.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, I love it. I'm gonna throw a quote out there that's not as witty and trending as but one of my favorite quotes, I think, is reflective of our years, which was, and you've probably seen me post it before, is a calm sea never made a skilled sailor, right? I think the greatest learnings in life are the ones that are the biggest impacts, right? Positive and negative, right? Sometimes you're winning and you still learn through that, and sometimes you're losing or it feels like the chips are down or the storm cloud is over your head. And that's where you find your grit, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you said you applied at over 300 jobs. You had jobs posting, and within hours, you're in a room, a virtual room with 100 other people's all with their resumes, hypothetically, and how you can and rejection, right? Like all these things can pound you and pound you and pound you, but that is what creates grit. That's what creates desire. That's what creates tough people because you got out of that, right? And I think these small little tools like gratitude, keeping your head up, knowing your resources, the people around you that want to see you succeed, and keep reminding yourself after that, day after day, positive affirmations, the list goes on and on. That's how tough people get through tough times, which
for
is a
sure.
part of another quote too. So
That quote was that from the great Mel Robbins, the sea. Was that? I know Mel
no.
Robbins, huge fan. Shouts out Mel if you're
Oh man, I,
if you
I
see
love
this.
Mel to bits, and she's got some gooders, but I don't recall. It's definitely not Mel Robbins when it's much older than Mel Robbins, but I'll have to look it up.
For sure. And honestly, Jason, one of the things I loved that you said was like the being defined in tough moments. If we look at I'm gonna quote movies here, but like they're impactful for a reason, right? You look at Rocky
Hmm.
Balboa, right? Like
Yep.
um what made a story so compelling was like I think in the second Rocky movie, uh Apollo Creed's trainer is telling Apollo, "Hey, don't take this fight." He's like, "Tony, what are you afraid of?" He said, "I saw you beat that man the way no man's ever been beat before, and he kept coming after you." Right? And I
Yeah.
think that's what kind of stood the test of time. It wasn't the end result. It wasn't the objective of the end of that journey that was being admired. It was right in the thick of it of when adversity came, he just kept taking a hit, throwing a hit. Granted, Stallone's head's made of cinder blocks. He's got just like, a head trauma he took.
Yeah.
And also, if you look at like the Amazing Spider-Man movie, like as you were mentioning, like the challenging moments. What's the most inspirational scene from the first Spider-Man movie? He's got a bullet hole in his leg, and he's got to jump from crane to crane, right? And like the
Yeah.
music's building up, and despite that, he overcomes those adversities. And so I think if anybody is in that space right now, no matter what your challenges are, just this is your Spider-Man moment. You know,
Yeah.
web your
Yeah.
wounds, and you're gonna cause some awesome inspiration. So I would just want to throw those little nuggets in as well, because as you said it, that's exactly where my head went.
Yeah, yeah, it's fair. And I think yeah, for anybody that's going through some tough times that you just know that it's just right now. It doesn't have to be forever. Um there will be brighter days, and hopefully us both sharing some of our vulnerabilities through this year will really help other people that are in that moment right now or about to be in that moment. It might help them. It's important, and also too, I always think there's strength in numbers.
Yes,
Maybe you don't aren't going through the exact same thing at this, in the same time, but maybe you've got experiences going through those things. But just connecting, the more people you connect with, I think the less alone we feel in this great big earth. So really important there too.
for sure.
Awesome. Well, Hassan, it's been a pleasure, as always. I hope we can do this a lot sooner. I know you've been really busy in your new role, rocking it out, just doing amazing things and impressing a lot of people along the way, including myself. I love hearing your success and continue to succeed. And yeah, hope we can do it again soon. Got a call out too. It's Movember next month, so
Yes.
we're talking, a lot about mental health in this indirectly or directly. Movember is one thing. Is I think my 14th year, and it's all around men's mental health. So the Mo will be coming very shortly. So maybe we can get a vlog in sometime earlier in the stage versus later in the stage of the month. But
We should
be
do a
awesome to see
comparison
you.
in the library when we kind of look at all the videos. Like, there's Movember, and
Yeah, you'll
you know
see
what,
it. Trust
Jason?
me.
We're at number 85 right now. I know it might be
Yeah.
too stupid of an ambitious goal, but it would be sick if we can hit 100 before the year is out, right? And begin the year at 101, albeit they may be like 15 tinier ones. Okay, let's do 2 minute segments and get the numbers up that
Chop
we
it
need
up.
to.
Hey,
But
I'm in if you're in. I'm in if you're in.
100%. So if we
Okay.
can hit that goal, I think that would be an awesome way to wrap up the year. And I think a lot more thoughts will be coming as, like you said,
Yeah.
November and these incredible things will be coming along our way. But yeah, thank you for having me on, and it's a
Thank you.
privilege to share these thoughts with you.
Yeah, you as well, Hassan. Thank you as always.
Cheers.